Hello everyone, welcome back to The Red Path. It's Jamie and Dara again, and we are going to have a little chat about the state of the World Eaters in the meta, where our players are placing, how they're doing, and just that kind of shit really. See you in a minute. Alright, and we're back. Dara, how we doing, mate?
Good, my friends. Good indeed. How are you?
Not too bad. Want to have a little chat about World Eaters in the meta, obviously. That is the title of this video. Not a huge amount of stuff to really dive into because for some reason Frontline Gaming deleted or has hidden last season's rankings. I really wanted to do a comparison, number of players, where we were at this point of the year and stuff like that. Unfortunately we can't because that information is not available, at least that I can find. But yeah, we're what, 3/4 of the way through the ITC season now. And I do vaguely remember at the end of the season last year, around the time of LVO, there were about 120 to 130 listed World Eaters players who competed, whether it was one RTT or they went to 4 Super Majors or whatever. They at least ran one World Eaters list at a tournament. So, excuse me, that was last season. At the moment, with people who have run at least one game in a tournament as World Eaters, we're sitting at 151 players, which is significant as we're only 3/4 of the way through the season. What do you think has influenced that? Why are we seeing this growth at the moment, do you think?
It's obviously the fantastic content train that is the Red Path, just encouraging people from every walk of life to join the World Leaders and play it competitively. Well, I mean, realistically though, it's like the announcement of the Codex. It has people excited to try out new things, to get some reps in with maybe an army that they enjoy before the new rules hit. You've got to couple that with the fact that the Chaos Space Marine Codex is a recent release.
Yeah.
And obviously it's an interim codex for us, but it is still a new codex. And like you can tell even in, we'll say, the Discord where we're talking to people, that there are more people going to events since the codex has dropped. So that's obviously contributing to that as well.
Yeah.
And in general, people are more inclined to play Chaos at the minute, be it World Leaders or any kind of flavor of Chaos or whatever. So it's not that surprising to see that there is an uptick this year, especially with like a bunch of new models being released, even being announced, all that kind of thing. Like the hype is there in a big way. If you compare it to like playing Chaos Space Marines this time last year, which was very much like the veteran cohorts, people who've like slogged it out through 8th and are getting through 9th and stuff like that, there was, the motivation was it wasn't really there for a lot of people to play Chaos Space Marines, which is fair enough. So I would anticipate that the uptick is at least 50% Red Path and then 50% everything else I've just said.
I think that's a fair analysis. And I suppose it's also worth mentioning that last season was still heavily impacted by COVID and stuff like that. Like there was still, and I mean, there are parts of the world today which are still, you know, not as frequently having tournaments and stuff, which is understandable, being safe and everything. But this year has been a lot more open and accessible for players to get to. So there's a lot of things going on for sure. But yeah, 100% it's the Red Path. You know, no one, everyone on this list was like, yeah, I'm just going to play Tyranids or Harlequins. Oh no. We want to be real heroes and run World Eaters because those strange fellows on the TV told me to. So, but yeah,
100%.
I've been having a look at the standings right now. I've got them on my other screen here, and if we look at starting off, if we look at the overall rankings of every 40k player who's registered on the ITC, the top World Eaters player is Ben Sanson. We've had him on the channel before. I met him at the ACO. Wonderful guy, great player, really does well at events, and he's been a very consistent World Eaters player as well. He's currently ranked 809th, so he's in the 800s, which is good. 809th in the world. Yeah, yep. Top 1,000, because I mean, I have no idea how many players are... Well, I suppose I can actually tell you how many players are ranked with several scrolls here. God, Jesus, it's going to be a... So we have...
It will probably take a while.
Almost 17,000 players.
Oh, wow, that much?
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be 10k, but fair enough.
Yeah, and I mean, so, you know, obviously some of those are people who have been to one event, dropped after game one. That's going to happen. But, I mean, we've still got a solid probably 13 to 14,000 people at least who are playing more than one event over the year, like, you know, depending. But yeah, he's 809, so top 1,000 World Eater player, which is good, you know, because we are still a limited code or a limited sub-faction within a strong, but the Chaos Space Marine Codex is competent, it's not broken. It's not like early Tyranids or...
It's so fair. It's just a very fair
very
book.
Balanced. It's not broken.
It's a good book.
Yeah. And but World Eaters is, you know, and this isn't just trying to like make us seem poor and pitiful. World Eaters is objectively the worst sub-faction in there. Just through dint of, you know, no access to psychers, hold over
also just like our
rules.
Legion trait being one thing instead of three things.
Yes.
Like not getting an update when everyone else did.
Yeah,
We are objectively worse, but that doesn't make us bad.
No, exactly. Like we can, like, and obviously Ben being up there and doing well at events is, you know, indicative of that. So if we drill down a bit more and go into the top Chaos Space Marine players, we do have like Vic VJ, Dean Sinbeck, Russell Tassin. Like Vic's one of those players who just can pick up an army and make it work. He's done a lot of work with a lot of armies, and I know he's been running Emperor's Children, done very well with them. Dean Sinbeck, who's blog for the Blood God in Australia, has been doing work with Creations and Emperors. Russell Tassin, amazing Black Legion player. Excuse me, I'm still getting over my cold, flu, whatever the hell it was. So then we have a lot of, you know, typical Chaos Space Marine names, and then we get Ben at number 9, Chaos Space Marine player. Then we've got our own Jack Beeman at number 12, another World Eaters player. Then we drop down, Mark is at 18. So we've got 3 World Eaters players in the top 20 of Chaos Space Marines, which, you know, that's pretty good. I know early season before the book, certainly, I think we had about 5 or 6 in the top 20. And I think that was just because not many people were playing Chaos Space Marines. Like, I don't think Vic was in there for sure. But a lot of us, you know, again, this comes, maybe it was Red Path influence, maybe it's just the veterans. We were playing World Eaters, and we had been playing this codex for, you know, 3 or 4 years, and we knew it inside out, and we could do well against the meta. So we, World Eaters especially, were just holding more population in the top ranks. Now there's more population, so we're still struggling to hold ourselves, but there's over 1,100 Chaos Space Marines registered. So to have 3 in the top 20 of that is, again, pretty good. It's nice to have some presence when you look at the strength of Emperor's Children, Creations of Bile, and then you're kind of like second tier Chaos Space Marines like Black Legion, Iron Warriors arguably, Word Bearers as well, of course, and then you sort of, I don't want to say bottom tier, because I think Alpha Legion, Night Lords, Red Corsairs, I think they're very strong, but that is looking from the bottom up. If you're a competitive player, you're looking at Emperor's Children and Creations of Bile. Maybe Word Bearers, depending on what your meta's like and stuff like that.
I think Black Legion as well. I will put them up there with the top.
I think Black Legion also are very close to us. I think they're mostly piloted by long-term Black Legion players. They've been with them. I mean, you look at Russell Tassin. He was the Black Legion version of us. He was running Chaos Space Marines when we were dog shit, and he's running them now. I am just going to confirm he is playing Black Legion. Yeah, mostly Black Legion and Thousand Sons and Necrons occasionally as well. But his Chaos Space Marines is going to be the Black Legion. So it's nice to see, you know, like Ben is in 9th, like I said, Jack is in 12th, Mark Whitaker's in 18th. Then we've got some other players, you know, we're holding up the top 50 pretty well. Don't know where I am. I want to see that now. Not too good, I don't think. Oh man, I'm really
Probably past me. I'm in the depths of hell.
well. To be fair, like hardly any of your events ever register for the ITC, do they?
Well,
So-
they register, they just don't submit the
Well,
scores.
oh, don't submit the token. Yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
76 for Chaos Space Marines. I should be jumping up maybe about 5 places here when my RTT goes through, because I know the score for that will be one of my best placings. But looking at World Eaters specifically, just the World Eaters rankings, and if I remember, I'll put a link to this in the description. But basically what you can do is you go to the ITC website, go to Chaos Space Marines, easiest one, find Ben Sanson's name, click on him, and then it will say World Eaters. If you click on the World Eaters faction, that's how you get it. It's a really weird way of doing it, but it's the only way. So like I said, we've got Ben in first place. He is rocking 654 points, almost 655 over 4 events, which
I'm good. Yeah.
that is very good. And he's only played in 5 events. Like, all of his events, Jesus Christ.
Man shows up when he goes.
He does. He's got a 178 from the Cherokee Open, a 164-65 from ACO. He won an RTT with a 163, so that must have been a decent-sized RTT. Then we've got the Chicago Open, a 148, and another GT, War in the Berg, 147. So his lowest score is a 147. That's, to compare, you know, in fairness, my highest score this season is 106.19. I think I should get about a 111 from my RTT.
Yeah, you get a bit more from that one.
Yeah, but like that's ludicrous. And I mean, you know, he's been GTs and majors, but he's placed at them. You know, he's top 50 or top 30, whatever. So some good showing there from Ben. Then we got our own Jack.
Very respectful.
Yeah, Jack Beeman's rocking a 626. So he's 30 odd points behind Ben. Now, I know he was doing the math in our little chat. What he needs to overtake Ben.
He wants it. Yeah,
he does want it.
He's got Coventry though, which is a big one.
Yeah,
Coventry Super Major coming up. A lot of points going for that.
Yeah.
8 games as well, so
Yeah,
good chance to get a good score.
He's been absolutely putting the reps in, putting the work in with a hell of a lot of GTs. He scored a 194 at the Leeds GT. And then
he did very well there.
He won the pod at the London GT, the RTT for the London, and he got a good score there. And he got a good score at the London GT. So yeah, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 scores over 100 between 103 and a 194. So another player, you know, his top 4 scores, his lowest is a 123. So yeah, yeah, I don't know.
Super good.
Yeah, really strong. Sorry, my camera just flickered off then. Then we get Mark in 3rd place with a 590, which again is a very strong showing from 4 events. He won an RTT, got 176, so that must have been a decent one. Then good points at the ACO, at the Smite Club Open, which is his local club. Then a lot of RTTs. Yeah, I know. I think Mark runs TO's RTTs in his local area as well.
He does, yeah.
So he's he's always got access to it. Get games in, and you know, a lot of RTT scores here, and again a lot over 100, and just putting the reps in. Then for the making up the rest of the top 10 here, we've got Ken Purvis, who he's in our Discord, another strong player. Dylan Matusek, obviously, who is just absurd. Dylan, if you're watching this, there's obviously something in your brain which is very finely tuned, because he's number 5 and he only has 3 events.
Yeah, he's crazy good.
479 points out of 3 events. It's ludicrous. I'm just bringing up his score right now. But yeah, that's pretty nuts. Then we get Zach Rockner. He's sitting at 6th. Josh Connor, or Lehman Russ, he was at the London GT, met him. He's sitting there 7th. Benjamin Yee, who I'm not familiar with as a player, so must be quite a newer to World Eaters, but probably not to 40k. Then myself at 9th, woo! And then Liam Warswick if I'm pronouncing your name right there, mate, in 10th. Then we got more like familiar names: Alistair Notman, Steve Toski, Victor Schuberg's there, Miles Wolfenden, just a bunch of long-time World Eaters players. And like I said, we're at 151 right now. So it's a nice showing. It's nice to see everyone still repping, doing the games.
It's good to see the familiar faces kind of holding out at the top as well. You know?
It is. Dylan's scores just come up. He got a 211 at the Chicago Open.
Chicago, yeah, he was on stream. He did very well at Chicago. Yeah, very, very well.
Yeah. Ended up 14th at that. Then Adepticon got a 156 and a 111 for coming 12th at a GT. 3 events and he's in 5th place. So I don't know. I know, like, because I've spoke to him and he's in our Discord occasionally and stuff. Between his personal life, you know, he's got kids and stuff. I think he's very much, he picks his event that he's going to go to, and he preps for it, is my guess, and then just goes and dominates it.
100%.
Hopefully, he can get another big event in. I'd like to see what his 4 scores will be for this season. I don't know if he can make it to the LVO, but Dylan, if you can make it to the LVO, you got to come, man. Everyone's going to be there. So. How is the World Eaters meta in Ireland, Dara? Because
it's great. I'm top of it.
have you ever actually met another World Eaters player over there?
So yes, I have. There's a funny joke to it. But so in seriousness, I know of 2 actual world leader. Well, we've
got Neil, of course, Paintsmith Armory.
Yeah, but yeah. In terms of people that I've like actually encountered that play world leaders, there is, when I started back into the hobby 4-ish years ago, there was someone in the local store in my city who was playing world leaders. Just totally lovely guy, like so nice. One of the first kind of friends I made in the hobby when I got back into it. He unfortunately moved away from the city very shortly after I started back, so I never really got a chance to speak to him. He wasn't a competitive player. Then the very first tournament I was at, WarpCon of 2018, my roommate Cian played a World Leaders player who had come down from Dublin, and he Chaos Booned in that game, and his lord turned into a Demon Prince, and he actually had the Demon Prince model ready, and there was this whole narrative thing. Anyway, pure lunatic. As far as I remember, he had a Land Raider and a bunch of rhinos, which, like, who knows what that was doing in the early days of 8th edition. But so aside from that, the competitive community in Ireland loves to make fun of me, which makes a lot of sense. I am somebody who's very easy to be teased and annoyed. And yeah, to the point that at an RTT, you know those insane RTTs that I always tell you about that happen in Cork, like the really weird ones where like bizarre shit happens all the time. So anyway, I'm playing one, and my friend Caleb, he brings world leaders to the RTT because he has gotten it in his head that he's the best world leader player in Ireland, and the only way he could do this is by beating me at this RTT. So he challenges me in round 1 and kicks the shit out of me in the game.
Oh no.
So since then, he has been titled the best world leader player in Ireland, and that's just how that goes. But yeah, no, realistically, like, there's a lot of people who've said to me that they want to do world leaders, blah, 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 whatever. But at any of the tournaments I've been to, aside from that one that I mentioned, there isn't really any other people playing world leaders. And there's no one I know of that has a dedicated world leaders collection in the same way that, like, I would or anything like that. So, not yet anyway, but yeah.
I had a pretty frustrating local World Eaters meta issue arrive, right? So, at my RTT yesterday, I've been the only Chaos Space Marine player in there, like, the whole time I've been going to my local scene, right? But obviously with 9th edition, there's a couple of players who have had Chaos collections. So we've got a Creations of Baal player now, really strong player. I think it's one of our sort of top ranked local players. Jordan, I played him versus his Harlequins a few months ago, super strong. And then Kevin, who is one of our kind of like has three or four armies and just plays them all really well. I've played him multiple times against his Grey Knights, his Death Watch, and he's got a Word Bearers army. And we've been talking for the last month. He's been asking me for not so much advice, but what my thoughts on certain things were, because he hadn't actually played his Word Bearers until this RTT. So I was giving him some tips and advice, advising him on, to put a Marcus Slanesh here or whatever, and stuff like that. So at the RTT yesterday, there's 3 of us Chaos Space Marines. Jordan running Creations of Baal, Kevin running Word Bearers, and me running World Eaters, right? We came 4th, 5th and 6th. Creations of Baal at 4th, Word Bearers at 5th, and me in 6th, which is fine. However, and I'm very frustrated about this, I don't think Kevin watches, but when he selected his faction, he selected World Eaters instead of Word Bearers.
Oh,
he must have had a finger slip or whatever.
Yeah.
So he is registered he's going to be on the rankings now as a World Eaters player. I was the only World Eaters player at this tournament yesterday, and I still wasn't the top ranked World Eaters player at the tournament. So...
That sucks, dude.
Oh my god, yeah. But I think I mentioned in the previous video, there's at least one other player who has a World Eaters army, and has had it for years, I'm guessing. So there's going to be more World Eaters players in my local meta, I'm guessing, once the book drops. I know a lot of people are waiting for the book, and that's completely fair. No issues with that. I'm eagerly awaiting seeing more World Eaters players pop up onto our radar, and hopefully we can convert them then, once they get in and get stuck in, and see how much fun it truly is to go against anyone with your World Eaters. They'll stick with us through the highs and then through the lows that necessarily follow. And
you'd imagine so.
Build our warband even larger. But yeah, being a World Eaters player, even with our new codex, and I'm sure with the current codex, and then when we get our new codex, is always a challenge because we are so phase locked into combat, lacking the psychic phase, and generally lacking. Chaos Space Marines aren't superb in the shooting phase, no matter who you pick. You're a combat army, and depending on if you're Iron Warriors or Black Legion, for instance, you can do okay in the shooting phase, but you're still a combat army. We're not like Tau or something like that. So it is always a challenge for us to go into the meta, being good in arguably the weakest damage phase there is, to get the damage off. Combat obviously is the most impactful if you get there. It's getting there which is the issue. So what do you think are some key units or build types or things like that we can suggest to the players who are slowly coming into the World Eaters meta competitively? What do you think we can advise them as units to look for or strategies to build around? Just kind of briefly, what things should we tell them to look for?
I mean, the Red Butchers are a highlight for pretty much every competitive list at the minute. I don't think I've seen one that doesn't utilize them to some degree.
Right.
Possessed are an excellent type of unit that can be utilized in different ways in different lists for the World Leaders. Just, fast, solid damage, weight of attacks kind of unit. I still rate Berserkers very highly. Blobs of MSU Berserkers, kind of a vibe. And powerful HQs like the Demon Prince are incredibly versatile if you're kind of looking at something to be able to pick up heavier targets that maybe Berserkers and Possessed and Terminators might struggle a little bit with.
Yeah.
Those would be the staples for me in terms of competitive selections, those units.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I will add, I am going against my initial thoughts when the codex dropped of saying, or of being not anti, but I wasn't going to run Abaddon. I've now run Abaddon, a few practice games and one tournament, or one RTT, and for me, he really gels well with World Eaters because he's another foot-slogging combat threat that really absorbs a huge amount of damage for us. And into particular armies, if you're facing a single-phase army, something like the Tau or another combat army, something that is very much focused. You can play ultra aggressive with Abaddon and absorb a lot of firepower because your opponent will be forced almost to either ignore his sphere of influence or, focus down fire on a toughness 6, 4-up invul, armor of contempt model that ignores the first damage with a kind of weird negative wound modifier, which saves your red butchers because they want to do the 3 damage on Abaddon, but that's a lot of firepower that's now not hurting your butchers. So it actually elevates your red butchers as well by allowing you 2 threats. So I really am advocating for Abaddon. I don't think he's an auto take, and I'm sure he's going to get some points changes at some point. I'd add the Master of Executions. I think the Mo is definitely worth considering as an elite trade piece. Wonderful. And obviously Red Butchers, Possessed. I think I'm of the opinion now that Possessed are above Warp Talons and Raptors. I've had a lot of games with the Jump Boys in now. They are good, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're bad. But I'm looking to fine-tune damage absorption. So Possessed can almost do what Warp Talons do, movement-wise. But the extra wound for the same points, it's amazing. It's quite frankly...
and tough 5 as well.
Yeah, T5 as well, of course. Then with 3-up, 5-up. I think they're going to edge it out.
Bigger bases too, so they can actually string out further and touch more things.
Yep, that is true. So I think there are a lot of things you can take, and all these units, for just so you know, are common in the stronger lists of the stronger players in the World Eaters competitively to different degrees. There isn't a World Eaters meta list. There isn't a net list for us. But Red Butchers, like you said, they definitely feature. Abaddon is in a lot of the top 5 World Eaters lists. Possessed are pretty common. Berserkers, obviously. There's no right or wrong way to build your list, but I certainly think if you look at who's doing well, you'll see some things that are common, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the meta overview, the kind of top-down idea of the competitive world leader list is to trade perfectly. Like, that's kind of how the list functions.
Yep.
So then it's really down to you, the style of list that suits you, what you put into it to allow those perfect trades to go off. And then there are some units which you can... Lots of people will add into the list, like the Red Butchers, which can efficiently trade very well because of their durability, their resilience, that they can take out multiple units before they themselves get taken out, or absorb an awful lot of things before they're taken out, at which point they're an exceptional trade piece. Then things like the Master of Executions, really good for trading up. Possessed, very, very, very efficient at trading as well. So it's like, how do you build your trades? What kind of redundancy do you build around that? And what your overall style is, like how fast do you want to play the game? When do you want to become most active? Do you want to go super elite? Like my list is super, super elite at the minute. Do you want to have lots of MSU? Do you want to start spamming 5-man Zerg squads, whatever like that? How do you want to play around that? And it's really down to a personal style at that point. But I think at the end of the day, it's still about at what point do you make the most efficient trades possible to make sure that you are staying on the primary, because realistically, it's primary is how we're winning. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, I think that about wraps up our thoughts on the meta. World Eaters are doing fine. We're getting the W's in. We're doing well enough at events.
Sitting around a 50% win rate, I believe, as well. I don't think we've dipped below 45. We're somewhere between 45 and 50, depending on the week.
I checked the faction win rate on was it Stat Check, right? Checked that. It was about a week ago when I checked. Yeah, we were right where was a fair place for us. A little bit below the other legions, which is absolutely to be expected. But I'm happy with it. I'm okay with our lot in life now, because I know we've got bigger and better things coming here in a few months' time.
100%.
Yeah. So, all right, I think that wraps it up. Until the next one, folks. Hope everything's good, and if I haven't already said it, come and join the Discord, because that's where we want to talk to you. But yeah, until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, kill Mainbow.